Welcome to the VET S.O.S Veteran Educational Resource Spotlight. I'm tongue-tied already. Here we go. It's going to be great. Remember, don't drown to see a transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. The VET S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network, and we're proud members of the Parade Deck community. As always, I'm here with Dr. Hira. How you doing today, Dr. Hira?
Can't complain. It's a wonderful day here for me, and I'm excited to learn about more about National because I've actually encountered it a lot as a military spouse.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so as you alluded to, let's jump into it. We got Dr. Joshua Cunio who served in the U.S. Army for over 10 years, first as an Apache helicopter technician and later as a CID Special Agent, contributing to Operations Iraqi Freedom, New Dawn, and Inherent Resolve. He now serves as the Director of Military and Veteran Outreach for National University and the Managing Director of P3M Strategies, LLC. In his spare time, Dr. Cunio is dedicated to assisting veterans in finding academic and professional opportunities that lead to fulfilling careers. An aspiring author, his debut book, The Project Manager's Guide to Lessons Learned, is currently in publication. Outstanding. How are you doing today, Joshua?
I'm good, Sean. How about yourself, Dr. Hira?
Not too bad. It's definitely warmer where I live than where Dr. Hira lives.
It's been freezing here. 2 days ago, it was 20 degrees outside, and then yesterday we were in our 30s.
Yeah, we were in the mid 60s yesterday.
Yeah.
We shut the state down when this happens.
That's great. All right, so let's start with your military transition. Tell us a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Sean, over 10 years in the service, so obviously you're over the hump, right? So most people, well, why'd you get out? Well, this was one of those transition stories where I didn't have much of an option. Ultimately, I tried to go into special forces, so while I was in selection, I got injured. That injury led to injuries that just wouldn't get better. So that was at a time when the military was big about, hey, if you can't deploy to theater, in a combat environment, we're going to ask you to leave. So ultimately, I got medically retired from service and had to figure out what I was going to do on the outside, right? As you mentioned, I was a CID agent, and I knew I did not want to do that line of work post-military. So I ultimately got into project management, and then to where I'm at today.
Very nice, very nice. So what was that pathway like? What really drew you to working in higher ed?
So this probably resonates with a lot of veterans, right? Especially if you've had a significant number of years under your belt. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
It really was. It's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? You hear all the buzzwords out there when you're transitioning. You can get into anything, and then in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I'm in the military. I could do anything because we're trained that way, right? We're trained to adapt and overcome, but that doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah.
So to get to higher education, I learned while in the military, being an NCO, that I loved to teach, right? And that's what we do as NCOs in the military. We train and lead troops. That's the bread and butter of an NCO. Well, I love that. That was my passion. So as I got into the civilian workforce, going through project management and a few other various industries that I was in, I always tried to find a way to teach, whether it was teaching how to do better or teaching what I knew for that. That's what I did. But we fast forward to last year, I completed my doctorate at National University. And I really was like, man, now I've got my doctorate. I really want to get into academia. I want to teach. I have a lot of knowledge in my brain and my gray matter, and I want to share it with the world. So I just started applying. Every day I was applying at National University. And then ultimately I got hired on as the Director of Military and Veteran Outreach here at National University. And I love it. I get to help veterans. I also get to help other people who just want to get into education and just learn, right? And that's a passion of mine. But now that I'm here, in my role, I get to really focus on the military community.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a passion coming from that community. Now I kind of get to give back another way to them.
That's fantastic, and completely agree with you on NCOs, teaching, training. That's what we do. My dream when I was in it was to teach at the NCOA, the NCO academies, especially for my MOS. And I remember having that conversation with the branch managers, like, you've already been there. No, I haven't. I have the identifier as a ABIC trained, the Army Basic Instructor course, but I'd never been an instructor. I'm like, you're running my career and you can't even realize I've never been there.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
I think people don't realize what service members bring, especially the NCO Corps service members, right? Even if you weren't a certified instructor in the Army, as an NCO, you're a trainer, period. Hip pocket training, whatever. You know how to come up with, hey, we're going to do some training on that because we're going to execute it, and we're going to execute it to the best of our ability.
Absolutely. And Dr. Hira, I know you're on board with that. Your husband being an NCO as well.
Yes. I mean, that's one of the things I talk a lot about with the military community in terms of those transferable skills. Higher ed is a great landscape to apply those in so many different facets. And again, the teaching piece of it, the instruction, the development of individuals. There are a lot of programs in higher ed that are all about that development piece. So there's so many places to find yourself. You don't have to be on the faculty side. Again, in the role that you're in, there's a lot of outreach and engagement. You're going to apply so many skills. So with it, I mean, again, I've seen national all over the different bases I've had the pleasure of being a part of. But, for somebody who has never actually somehow heard of national, what are you as an institution? How do they find you? And what is being offered that could, again, whether it's education fully for a degree, retraining, upskilling, what are the opportunities they have?
No, that's a great question, Dr. Hira. So National University, it was founded by a Navy captain. And for all my Army brothers out there, we're probably thinking it's just a captain, right? Yeah, so it's founded by a Navy captain. And the focus on National University is really to kind of get back to the military community, right? So we have over 190 programs at National University. We're a private institution based out of San Diego, California, but we have campuses in San Diego and in the Los Angeles area, but probably 95+% of our programs are online as well, right? We have some programs that have to be done in person, like our healthcare programs that require being on campus. But we also have all kinds of other things, Dr. Hira, that focus on pathways. How do we get you into education? Maybe you don't need a degree. Maybe you're looking for certification. Right. So let's find out what your needs are. We probably have a certification that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So we do that for military and our normal students. But at National, we also have like a business section where we partner with industry. For example, we partner with Amazon and we say, hey, Amazon, what is it you would like your workforce to have training on? And we will design a tailored program for that company or industry to make sure that workforce is that much better in that industry.
Nice. Yeah. And I think that's that piece of education where, when I was doing a lot of academic advising was, okay, you're here, but the end goal is out there. So how do we really make sure you're connected and ready and prepared? And those industry partnerships are critical because higher ed needs to be informed by that in many ways, especially when we think of the vocational, technical, and many other aspects of, again, if it's certification, are we really preparing the individual for the employment opportunity on the other side? And that's wonderful to hear that, National's continuing to make sure the outcome is there for the student at the end of the day.
Yep.
It's an interesting whole, and I did 2 degrees online. And so the online schooling thing's always been a little different to me. I like the in-person thing. I like, that interaction with my classmates and, going to college parties, things like that. So what kind of feedback are you receiving from the military community as far as their experiences going through this? And I say that not just from the standpoint of, I don't like the mandatory posts every week and having to respond to it and, things like that. It's just one of those personal things that I never liked. But I always loved when we could do something either on Zoom or whatever to where we could do some interaction. But I'm curious, what kind of responses are you getting from the military population as far as their experiences there at National?
It's mixed, Sean, because you have, like me, all of my education, adult education, past high school has been online. So all of my degrees online. I never been to actual college. And truthfully, I look back and like, if I did go to actual college and had to go to campus, I would hate my life, right? To me, it's a waste of time to have to drive to campus, get to class, sit there, okay, drive home. No, I don't want to do all that. Just I'll get on, log in, do my stuff, and move on. But now, when you ask the question kind of about like or you mentioned about posting and things like that, some of those are out of our control because those are usually certain requirements might be mandated by the regional accreditor, the regional accrediting body, because our institution is regionally accredited. And so we have to meet certain requirements to maintain that accreditation. So now we've been having some meetings, and I think there's starting to be a shift in higher education to where in the future we might see some changes to that. I think higher education is starting to realize that this new generation of students coming out, they learn a little differently. And I think it's due to the information that's at their fingertips. They don't want to sit there and do these posts every week or whatever, or maybe there's a better way. So maybe in the future, there's going to be some changes to those things. And I was like you, Sean, I hated doing the post. To me, it was a big waste of time. And I had to do that like a lot for my master's level program. At a doctoral level program, it's a lot different, and you don't do that. And at NU, we do a one-on-one program for our doctoral students. So it's you and your chair. But we're trying to make those shifts for students. But from the military side, it's when we go out when my team and I are out doing these outreach events, I like to ask those things. Well, do you prefer online or in person? I think most prefer the online because they understand in the military, especially the active duty personnel, they really don't have time to go to an actual institution unless they have a place on post.
Right.
But I think most prefer the online. So I think it's the veterans and maybe spouses are the ones I see the most that are like, well, I actually want to go to class. So
it's definitely a different world we live in. I will take in person every day of the week. I want the interaction. I want the college experience. And that's, you see all the arguments every year about, college is a waste of time, this, that. To me, it's the social aspects really that are the valuable part of college. Because let's face it, most of the education stuff you could probably Google, unless you're trying to be a doctor or a dentist or something like that. You could still Google it, but you probably need some practical experience in there too.
We actually have some students at NU that kind of do a hybrid where they don't even live in California and they will travel to California like once a month.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's because, like you said, they want that in-person experience, but they don't need it all the time per se. And with military benefits, you're able to do that with the rules that they came out with your allowance for schooling, right? Because the school is located in California, you can still offset that cost.
That's interesting. It's a whole new world, Dr. Hira.
It is. And I mean, the biggest thing about education and again, why I love this segment is it's showing the community just how many different options there are out there, because it's really about finding the fit for you. Obviously, we have 3 of us in here. We all chose very different options when it came to our educational pursuits. And that in my world, coming from the disability and rehab world, we talk a lot about what is a best fit environment for an individual. And that's what you need to be thinking about when you're picking your schools, is what's going to be a best fit for you, for your family, whatever it is your need at that time. And that's the glory of all these schools and these programs, to provide that where you can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I need the online learning. Maybe down the line, we'll do more of that networking and figuring out who to talk to in person. But right now, it's just my best fit is I need to get the degree done. I need the education training. I need that credential. And that's the focus. And that is okay. I think there is some, discussions in the education world around, is an online degree worth it? And yes, if it to you at the end of the day helps you meet your end goal, it was worth it. And so I get a little concerned at how much talk there is around. You got to go in person because you know what, that may not be the best fit environment for somebody for a whole host of reasons. And I think for our military community as mil spouse, that transient piece of it, national provides that fluidity where, hey, wherever you go, you can stay enrolled. And that's a beautiful thing to not have that interruption to education. So, again, find what works for you. And it's great to hear all the programming that National is doing to afford our community those opportunities if it's the right fit for them.
Yeah, we have this concept at NU called the whole you, right? And I think that's where that falls in line, right? Like you said, Dr. Hira, if you need to go in just for a little bit or you only want to do it online, that's fine because that's the whole you. And we want to tailor to you the best we can. So.
Yeah.
That's a neat concept.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're getting down to the end already. I feel like we just started.
I know. All right. Real quick though, before we go into close, why should the military community consider NU as their school potentially?
Yeah, and I thought about this, right? And what I would say is NU, we can tailor to a lot, right? We got the whole you concept. We want to work towards the whole you, right? And in whatever way we can. So we do that through having over 190 plus programs, right? We've probably got a program that fits what you're looking for. So we have that. We're a yellow ribbon school, right? Mm-hmm. So if you need additional tuition assistance, you can go through yellow ribbon program. And then I think the biggest thing that I see that kind of differentiates us to some other institutions is we don't just focus on the exact military person, like the active duty or the veteran. We focus what we call the military community, right? So that encompasses active duty, veterans, retirees, spouses, dependents, right? If you are military affiliated, that's what we care about because we understand for our veterans, for active duty, part of that whole you concept to them is not just them alone, right? Your husband, Dr. Hira, is not just him. Y'all are a team, and we understand.
Yep. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joshua, for joining us on the VET S.O.S. podcast. On behalf of VET S.O.S. family, we'd like to thank you for joining all of our subscribers. Make sure you are following us. We are on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube and social media. Again, make sure you're subscribing and follow so you don't miss a thing. And remember, don't drown in the sea of the transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. Lifeline.